Commander Velthara stood on the bridge of the cosmic dawn, watching the stars drift past the view screen. The Zephyrian officer had been in space for 20 years and had never seen anything like what happened 3 days ago. Every monitoring station across 3 sectors had picked up the same signal at exactly the same time. It was impossible, but it was happening. The signal came from empty space in a region called the Dead Zone. No ships went there because old star charts marked it as dangerous. The area had been avoided for thousands of years. Now something was broadcasting from that forbidden space, and it was getting stronger every hour. Dr. Kixnoon walked onto the bridge carrying his datapad. The elderly scientist looked tired but excited. His forearms moved quickly as he sorted through readings and calculations. Kixnoon was the best xenoarchaeologist in the Confederation and an expert on extinct civilizations. If anyone could figure out what was happening, it would be him. "Commander, the signal is definitely artificial," Kixnoon said in his whistling voice. "The frequency patterns match ancient human communication protocols from over 3,000 years ago. This should not be possible. The humans have been extinct for millennia." Velthara turned from the view screen to face the scientist. Her blue skin darkened slightly, which showed she was thinking hard. The Zephyrian had studied human history in the military academy. Earth had been destroyed long ago. The humans had fought wars that poisoned their world and killed their species. Everyone in the galaxy knew this story. "Are you certain it is human in origin?" she asked. "The mathematical sequences are identical to samples from the old archives," Kixnoon replied. "But there is something else. The signal contains coordinates. It wants us to come to a specific location in the dead zone." The bridge crew went quiet. Even the usual hum of the ship system seemed softer. Everyone knew that following unknown signals into dangerous space was not smart. But this was different. If the signal really was human, then it could change everything they knew about galactic history. "How long to reach those coordinates?" Velthara asked the navigation officer. 18 hours at maximum warp," came the reply. Velthara made her decision. The Cosmic Dawn was an exploration vessel built for exactly this kind of mission. The crew was experienced, and the ship had the best sensors in the fleet. If something important was waiting in the dead zone, then the Confederation needed to know about it. "Set course for the coordinates," she ordered. "Full speed." The ship jumped to warp, and space around them changed from stars to streaming light. In her quarters that night, Velthara read through old files about humanity. The species had been remarkable in many ways. They had developed faster than light travel in record time. Their technology had been impressive even by current standards. But they had also been violent and destructive. The humans had spread across dozens of worlds before their empire collapsed. Wars between human factions had devastated entire star systems. Their homeworld Earth had become a poisoned wasteland. The few remaining humans had fought over the dying planet until none were left alive. At least that was what the history books said. Dr. Kixnoon spent the journey analyzing the signal. The more he studied it, the more convinced he became that it was authentic. The complexity was too great to be a fake. Someone or something that understood human technology was broadcasting from the dead zone. But who or what could that be when the Cosmic Dawn dropped out of Warp 18? Hours later, the crew gathered on the bridge to see what they had found. The coordinates led them to what looked like empty space at first. Then the sensors began picking up something strange. There was a structure hidden among the asteroids and cosmic debris. "Magnify the image," Velthara ordered. The view screen showed a massive facility built into a large asteroid. The construction was clearly artificial, but unlike anything in current galactic architecture. Strange geometric patterns covered the surface. Docking bays and communication arrays were visible even from a distance. Most surprising of all, the facility was operational. Lights were on and energy readings showed active power systems. "Commander, this is incredible," Dr. Kixnoon said, studying his instruments. "The structure is over 4,000 years old, but somehow it is still functioning. The signal is definitely coming from there." Velthara studied the readings. The facility was huge. It could easily house thousands of beings. But who would build something like this in the middle of nowhere, and why was it broadcasting now after being silent for so long? "Are there any life signs?" she asked. The science officer worked at her station for several minutes before responding. "This is strange, Commander. I am detecting what might be life signs, but they are very faint, almost like beings in some kind of deep sleep or suspended animation." The bridge crew looked at each other with surprise. Suspended animation was possible but extremely difficult. Most species could only survive in stasis for a few hundred years at most. If there were beings who had been asleep for thousands of years, it would be a scientific miracle. How many life signs? Velthara asked. The readings are unclear, but possibly thousands, came the reply. Velthara made another decision. They had come this far, and the discovery was too important to ignore. Whatever was on that facility could change their understanding of galactic history. If there were survivors from an ancient civilization, then the Confederation needed to make contact. Prepare an away team, she ordered. Dr. Kixnoon will lead the scientific investigation. I will take security personnel in case we encounter any threats. We dock with the facility in 2 hours. The next 2 hours passed slowly. The crew prepared equipment and reviewed safety protocols. No one knew what they would find inside the ancient structure. The facility was old enough that it could contain dangerous technology or hostile defenses. But the signal seemed like an invitation rather than a warning. When the away team finally docked with the facility, they found an airlock that was clearly designed for humanoid beings. The atmosphere inside was breathable for most galactic species. Emergency lighting illuminated corridors that stretched deeper into the asteroid. Everything was clean and well-maintained despite the facility being thousands of years old. Dr. Kixnoon led the way with his scanning equipment. The corridors were lined with symbols and writing that looked familiar but ancient. As they moved deeper into the structure, the life sign readings grew stronger. They were definitely heading toward whatever was sleeping in the depths of the facility. Finally, they reached a vast chamber filled with rows and rows of cylindrical containers. Each container was the size needed to hold a humanoid being. Status lights blinked slowly on each unit, showing that the systems inside were still active. Through transparent sections, they could see the shadowy forms of beings in suspended animation. "Commander," Dr. Kixnoon whispered in amazement. "These are human stasis pods. Thousands of them. And according to these readings, many of them still contain living humans." Velthara stared at the incredible sight. If this was real, then everything they knew about human extinction was wrong. Somehow thousands of humans had survived in this hidden facility for over 3,000 years. The question was why they were here, and why the signal had activated now after so much time. As if responding to their presence, a holographic display suddenly appeared in the center of the chamber. Ancient human text scrolled across the projection along with star charts and technical data. At the bottom of the display, a single message appeared in multiple languages, including modern Zephyrian. "Welcome. You have arrived at Project Lazarus Facility 1. The conditions for revival have been met. Initiating awakening sequence." The holographic display flickered and changed, showing a human face. The man appeared to be in his 50s with gray hair and kind eyes. He wore clothing that matched the ancient human style from historical records. When he spoke, his voice was clear despite being a recording made thousands of years ago. "My name is Dr. Ben Parker, and I am the, project leader of Lazarus Station 1. If you are seeing this message, then our calculations were correct, and the galaxy has finally reached a state of peace and technological advancement. The automated systems have determined that conditions are now suitable for our return, Commander." Velthara watched the recording with amazement. Dr. Kixnoon was frantically taking notes while other members of the away team stood in stunned silence. The implications of what they were witnessing would change everything the galaxy knew about human history. The hologram continued speaking. "We know that history will record humanity as a failed species that destroyed itself through war and environmental collapse. This is partly true, but not the complete story. In our final years, we discovered something that made our sacrifice necessary. We detected signs of an ancient threat approaching from beyond our galaxy, a force that has consumed countless civilizations across the universe." The display changed to show star charts and astronomical data. Long-range sensor readings displayed massive objects moving through intergalactic space at incredible speeds. The recordings were clearly very old, but the technology used to gather this information was more advanced than anything the current galactic civilization possessed. "We called them the Harvesters," Dr. Parker continued. "They arrive approximately every 50,000 years to strip entire galaxies of all life and resources. They had already begun their approach toward our galaxy when we detected them. We calculated that they would arrive roughly 3,000 years after our civilization's projected collapse." Velthara felt her blood run cold. If the humans had been right about this threat, then the galaxy was in terrible danger. She looked at Dr. Kixnoon, who was pale despite his alien physiology. The scientist clearly understood the implications as well. The hologram changed again, showing construction projects on multiple worlds. Thousands of humans worked frantically to build facilities like the one they were currently exploring. Ships carried materials and personnel to hidden locations across the galaxy. The scope of the project was enormous. We had no time to save our dying world or rebuild our civilization, the recording explained. Instead, we focused all our remaining resources on Project Lazarus. We built 12 facilities in hidden locations throughout the galaxy. Each contains preserved human knowledge, advanced technology, and volunteers who entered cryogenic sleep to wait for the right moment to return. Dr. Ben Parker's expression became more serious. We also built something else. The Lazarus network is more than just preservation facilities. When all 12 stations are active, they form a galaxy-wide defense system capable of protecting all life from the Harvester threat. This is our gift to the future civilizations that would inherit our galaxy. The recording paused and another figure appeared. This was a woman in military uniform with short brown hair and determined eyes. Her name appeared as General Lisa Stone. "I want to be clear about our intentions," she said firmly. "Humanity is not seeking to return as conquerors or rulers. We failed as a species and lost the right to dominate others. If we are revived, it will be to serve alongside other civilizations as equals. Our only goal is to help defend the galaxy from the coming threat." Young researcher Knox Veen, who had joined the away team, was recording everything on his personal device. The Zephyrian historian had studied human culture extensively and was fascinated by what he was hearing. This contradicted everything in the official records about humanity's final years. The hologram switched back to Dr. Parker. "The network will only activate when certain conditions are met. The galaxy must be at peace. Multiple species must coexist without major conflicts. Technology must have advanced to a level where cooperation is possible. Our automated systems have been monitoring galactic civilization for over 3 millennia, waiting for the right moment." More technical displays showed the incredible complexity of the monitoring systems. Sensors hidden throughout the galaxy had been watching and analyzing the development of alien civilizations. The scope of human planning was almost beyond comprehension. Each facility contains approximately 10,000 volunteers in cryogenic sleep, Dr. Parker continued. They represent the best of humanity. Scientists, engineers, teachers, artists, and philosophers. They volunteered to leave behind everything they knew in hope of serving a greater purpose in the distant future. The display showed images of the volunteers entering stasis pods. Families saying goodbye forever. Children who would never see their parents again. The sacrifice these humans had made was enormous, and they had done it willingly to help people they would never meet. "The facility you have discovered also contains our complete technological and cultural archives," General Stone added. "Medical breakthroughs that could extend life for all species. Clean energy systems that could power entire civilizations. Most importantly, communication technology that allows instant contact across unlimited distances." Dr. Kixnoon nearly dropped his datapad. Faster-than-light communication was considered impossible by current science. If the humans had solved this problem, it would revolutionize galactic civilization. The recording began showing star charts with marked locations throughout the galaxy. "There are 11 other facilities like this one waiting to be activated," Dr. Parker explained. "The network must be complete for the defense system to function properly. But each station can only be activated by beings from the current galactic civilization. We cannot do this ourselves." Commander Velthara realized they faced a monumental decision. Should they wake these ancient humans and help them complete their network? Would other species accept the return of a civilization that was supposed to be extinct? And most importantly, was this harvester threat real or just human paranoia from a dying civilization? The holographic display began cycling through images of the other facilities. Each was hidden in a different region of space. Some were built into asteroids like this one. Others were constructed on dead moons or hidden in nebulae. The humans had spent incredible resources to keep these locations secret. "Time is running short," General Stone said urgently. "Our long-range sensors detected the harvester fleet while we were still building the network. They are moving slower than expected, but they are definitely approaching. Based on our calculations, they will reach the galaxy's edge within the next few years." The recording showed massive dark objects moving through the void between galaxies. They were enormous beyond imagination, and there were hundreds of them, If this was real, then every living being in the galaxy was in mortal danger. Dr. Parker appeared one final time. We know this is a lot to ask of civilizations we have never met, but we designed the system to activate only when we believed you would be ready to handle the truth. The choice is yours whether to wake us and complete the network or let us sleep forever. Either way, we have tried to give you the tools needed to survive what is coming. The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving the away team standing in silence among thousands of sleeping humans. The weight of what they had learned pressed down on everyone present. They held the fate of not just these preserved humans, but potentially every living being in the galaxy. Velthara looked around the vast chamber filled with stasis pods. Inside each one was a human who had given up everything for the chance to help strangers in a distant future. Now that future had arrived and difficult choices would have to be made. The galaxy would never be the same regardless of what happened next. News of the human discovery spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within hours of Commander Velthara's initial report, every major government and news organization knew about the sleeping humans and their warning about the harvesters. The reaction was immediate and divided. On the Zephyrian homeworld, crowds gathered in the streets to debate what should be done. Some aliens welcomed the idea of meeting humanity and learning from their advanced technology. Others feared that waking the humans would bring back the violent species that had once terrorized the galaxy. The government called emergency sessions to discuss the situation. Dr. Kate Miller was among the first humans to be successfully revived from stasis. The biotechnician had volunteered for the project over 3,000 years ago, leaving behind a husband and 2 children, who were long dead. When she opened her eyes in the medical bay of the cosmic dawn, the first thing she saw was the blue face of a Zephyrian doctor. "Welcome back," Dr. Kixnoon said gently. "You have been asleep for a very long time." Kate tried to speak, but her voice was weak from centuries of disuse. The revival process was difficult and painful, but the human medical technology in the facility was incredibly advanced. Within days, she was walking and talking normally. The hardest part was accepting that everyone she had ever known was gone forever. Captain Ryan Webb was revived next. The former military officer had been chosen as one of the facility leaders because of his diplomatic skills and calm personality. Unlike the warlike reputation humans had in the history books, Webb was thoughtful and peaceful. He spent hours talking with Commander Velthara about the current state of the galaxy. "We never wanted to be remembered as conquerors," Webb told her during one of their conversations. "The humans who fought those final wars were desperate and afraid. They knew our world was dying, and they made terrible choices trying to save what was left." Professor Alan Brooks, the facility's chief historian, helped bridge the cultural gap between the revived humans and their alien hosts. He explained how human society had changed in their final years as they worked together on Project Lazarus. The bitter divisions that had caused their wars were set aside in the face of the greater threat they had discovered. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy about humanity's return. Admiral Zix Theron commanded the largest battle fleet in the Zephyrian military. He remembered the stories his grandfather told about human raids on alien colonies. The admiral believed that humans were naturally violent and could never be trusted. "These sleeping humans are a threat to galactic peace," he declared in a broadcast to the military council. "They claim to come in friendship, but their species has a history of violence and conquest. We should destroy their facilities before more of them can wake up." The Zephyrian government was torn between different factions. President Kelvora wanted to help the humans and learn from their technology. But many citizens and military leaders supported Admiral Zix Theron's position that humanity should remain extinct. Meanwhile, Dr. Kate Miller and Captain Webb worked frantically to revive more humans from the thousands of stasis pods in the facility. Each person who woke up brought new skills and knowledge that could help both humanity and their alien hosts. But the revival process was slow, and not everyone survived the awakening after so many centuries. The facility's artificial intelligence, which called itself Genesis, provided crucial information about the other Lazarus stations. It showed them star maps marking the locations of the remaining 11 facilities scattered across the galaxy. Each one contained thousands more sleeping humans, and parts of the defense network needed to stop the harvesters. "The network must be complete for it to function," Genesis explained in its calm, electronic voice. "Each facility contains unique components that work together to create a galaxy-wide protective field. If too many stations are destroyed, the entire system will fail. This created urgency as reports came in that several alien governments were sending military ships toward the marked locations. Some intended to help activate the facilities and wake more humans. Others planned to destroy the stations before their contents could pose a threat to galactic stability. Captain Webb realized they needed to act quickly. He asked Commander Velthara to help him contact other alien governments and explain the true purpose of the human facilities. Together, they created broadcasts that were transmitted across the galaxy, showing the evidence of the approaching harvester fleet. "We are not asking you to trust us because we are good people," Webb said in one of these messages. "We are asking you to look at the evidence and make your own decision about the threat we discovered. The choice is yours whether to help us or not." The response was mixed. The peaceful Andronian Republic agreed to help activate 2 facilities in their territory. The militant Corvan Empire declared that they would destroy any human installations found in their space. Smaller governments were divided, with some supporting the humans and others remaining neutral. Dr. Kate Miller made a breakthrough in her research on the network technology. She discovered that the human installations contained not just defensive systems, but revolutionary advances in medicine, energy production, and space travel. The knowledge preserved in the facilities could benefit every species in the galaxy. "Look at this," she showed Professor Brooks displays of medical data. "We developed treatments that could extend lifespans for any species by centuries. Clean fusion reactors that produce unlimited energy with no waste. Even terraforming technology that could turn dead worlds into gardens." Brooks realized this was humanity's true gift to the galaxy. They had spent their final years not just building weapons to fight the harvesters, but creating technologies that could improve life for all civilizations. The humans had sacrificed their own survival to leave behind tools that could build a better future. Meanwhile, Admiral Zix Theron was gathering support for military action against the human facilities. He convinced several planetary governors that the awakened humans were just the advance force of a hidden invasion fleet. Fear and suspicion spread as old stories about human violence were repeated and exaggerated. "They claim to come in peace, but history shows us what humans really are," the Admiral said at a military gathering. "They destroyed their own world and now they want to take ours. We must act before it is too late." The situation became more tense when long-range sensors at the galaxy's edge detected massive objects moving through intergalactic space. The readings matched the data from the human archives about the Harvester fleet. Whatever was approaching was enormous and clearly artificial, but still too far away to identify clearly. Captain Ryan Webb gathered the few dozen humans who had been successfully revived so far. They were scientists, engineers, doctors, and teachers who had given up everything to help people they would never meet. Now they faced the possibility that their sacrifice might have been for nothing if the galaxy chose to destroy the Lazarus network. "We always knew this would be difficult," Webb told his fellow survivors, "but we have to try. Even if only a few of the facilities survive, it might be enough to give the galaxy a fighting chance against what is coming." Dr. Kate Miller had been working around the clock to understand the network's defensive capabilities. What she discovered was both amazing and terrifying. The Lazarus system could indeed protect the galaxy from the harvesters, but activating it would require cooperation from every major civilization. If too many species refused to help, the defense would fail and everyone would die. The race was on as ships from multiple species headed toward the remaining 11 facilities. Some carried teams ready to help wake more humans and activate the network. Others were armed with enough firepower to turn the ancient stations into cosmic dust. The fate of the galaxy would be decided by choices made in the next few days. Commander Velthara received orders from the Zephyrian government to protect the human facility under her watch. But she also knew that Admiral Zix Theron was preparing his own ships for a strike against other installations. The galaxy was splitting into factions, and the humans caught in the middle had become both the potential saviors and the possible destroyers of galactic peace. The galaxy erupted into chaos as fleets from dozens of worlds raced toward the hidden human facilities. Colonel Sam Hayes was among the humans revived at Lazarus Station 7 when a joint Andronian-Zephyrian task force reached the facility first. The former military strategist had been asleep for over 3,000 years, but his tactical mind was as sharp as ever. "How many stations have been successfully activated?" Hayes asked Dr. Nina Carter, who was studying the network displays in the facility's command center. The physicist had been working around the clock to understand the true scope of Project Lazarus since her revival 2 days earlier. Only 4 so far, Carter replied grimly. 3 others have been destroyed by hostile forces and 4 more are still contested. We need at least 8 operational stations for the network to function properly. The news was devastating. Admiral Zix Theron's extremist faction had moved faster than anyone expected. They had destroyed Lazarus Station 3 with nuclear weapons before the peaceful aliens could stop them. Similar attacks had eliminated 2 other facilities, reducing the network's capabilities by 25%. Captain Pete Anderson piloted his newly acquired alien spacecraft toward Lazarus Station 9, where fierce battles were raging between pro-human and anti-human forces. The former test pilot was amazed by the advanced technology of modern alien vessels, but frustrated by the violence surrounding humanity's return to the galaxy. At the original facility, Commander Velthara worked with Captain Ryan Webb to coordinate rescue missions for the remaining installations. They had established communication links with several stations and were trying to organize defensive efforts, but time was running short, and the political situation was getting worse every hour. The Corvan Empire has declared all human installations to be military targets, Webb reported to the command team. They are sending their entire fleet to destroy whatever facilities they can find. Elder Quinn Mora appeared on the communication screen from the distant Andronian capital. The ancient alien leader was one of the few beings still alive who remembered humanity's original extinction. His voice was weak, but his words carried great authority across the galaxy. I was young when the humans disappeared, the elder said slowly. I remember the fear we all felt when their empire collapsed. But I also remember the scientific advances they shared with us in their final years. These awakened humans are not the same as those who fought the old wars. Dr. Nina Carter made a breakthrough discovery while analyzing data from multiple facilities. The network was more sophisticated than anyone realized. It was not just a defensive system, but a complete galactic monitoring and protection network that could detect threats from anywhere in known space. Look. At these readings, she showed Colonel Hayes displays of sensor data spanning thousands of years. The network has been watching the galaxy continuously since it was built. It detected every major war, every natural disaster, every technological breakthrough. The humans created the most advanced surveillance system ever conceived. But the most shocking discovery came when Carter accessed deeper levels of the network's memory banks. The system had detected something much worse than the approaching harvester fleet. Long-range sensors had identified massive objects moving through multiple galaxies simultaneously. The harvesters were not just heading toward their galaxy, but conducting a coordinated assault on entire clusters of star systems. This is not an invasion, Carter told Hayes with growing horror. This is extermination on a cosmic scale. They are attacking dozens of galaxies at the same time. Even if we stop them here, there are millions of other civilizations facing the same threat. Colonel Hayes studied the data with his strategic mind, working to understand the implications. If the harvesters operated on such a massive scale, then individual galaxies could not fight them alone. The only hope was to create networks like the one humanity had built, and coordinate defenses across multiple star systems. Meanwhile, Captain Pete Anderson reached Lazarus Station 9 just as Corvan warships began their attack on the facility. The installation was built inside a massive asteroid belt, which provided some protection, but the alien weapons were incredibly powerful. Several sections of the station had already been destroyed. This is Captain Anderson to any survivors in Station 9. He broadcast on emergency frequencies. I am coming to assist in evacuation procedures. The response came from Dr. Lisa Torres, a human engineer who had been awakened just hours before the attack began. Captain, we have over 8,000 people still in stasis pods. We cannot evacuate them all before the facility is destroyed. Anderson pushed his alien spacecraft to maximum speed, weaving between asteroids and weapons fire from the attacking fleet. He had learned to pilot the advanced vessel in just days, but his old Earth training served him well in combat situations. The ship's shields deflected several energy blasts as he approached the damaged station. Dr. Torres, can you activate the station's defensive systems? He asked while dodging another salvo from the Corvan ships. We are trying, but most of the control systems were damaged. In the first attack, Torres replied. We might be able to get partial shields working, but not enough to stop a full assault. Back at the original facility, Dr. Nina Carter discovered something that changed everything. Deep in the network's archives, She found records of other species that had faced the harvesters in previous galactic cycles. Most had been destroyed, but a few had managed to create successful defenses. The key is coordination, she explained to the assembled humans and aliens. No single galaxy can stop them alone, but if multiple star systems work together, they can create barriers that the harvesters cannot penetrate. The network was designed to link with similar systems in other galaxies. Elder Quinn Mora contacted leaders throughout the galaxy, sharing Carter's discoveries. The revelation that the harvester threat extended far beyond their own star system began to change attitudes toward the human network. Even some of Admiral Zix Theron's supporters started questioning whether destroying the facilities was the right choice. Colonel Hayes coordinated military responses as more details about the approaching threat became clear. Long-range sensors confirmed that the harvester fleet consisted of hundreds of massive vessels, each larger than entire moons. They moved slowly but relentlessly, consuming everything in their path. "How long do we have?" Captain Webb asked during an emergency planning session. "Based on current trajectory, approximately 18 months before they reach the galaxy's outer rim," Hayes replied. "But they will start affecting outer colonies months before that. Their approach disrupts subspace communication and causes gravitational anomalies." The political situation began shifting as the reality of the threat became undeniable. Several governments that had opposed the human revival started offering support for the network activation, but Admiral Zix Theron remained convinced that humanity was using the harvester threat as an excuse to regain power in the galaxy. Captain Pete Anderson managed to evacuate 3,000 humans from Station 9 before the facility was completely destroyed. Dr. Lisa Torres was among the survivors, but thousands of sleeping humans were lost when the installation exploded. The network's defensive capability dropped another 10%. "We are running out of time," Dr. Nina Carter told the command team. "Even if we activate all remaining stations, the network will be operating at only 70% capacity. That might not be enough to protect the entire galaxy." Colonel Hayes studied tactical displays showing the positions of surviving facilities and approaching enemy fleets. The mathematics were brutal. They needed to hold at least 6 more stations while simultaneously preparing for the arrival of cosmic destroyers that had wiped out countless civilizations. The fate of billions of beings depended on choices being made in the next few days. Humanity had awakened from their long sleep to find themselves caught between suspicious allies and approaching annihilation. Their gift to the galaxy might arrive too late to save anyone, including themselves. As reports came in of more battles around human facilities, Colonel Hayes realized they were fighting 2 wars simultaneously. One against the alien factions that wanted humanity to remain extinct, and another against the ancient enemy that threatened to destroy everything living in the galaxy. The humans had sacrificed their civilization to give future generations a chance at survival. But that chance was slipping away with every facility that was lost. Admiral Chris Morgan was the last human to be awakened from the deepest stasis chambers of Lazarus Station 1. The former fleet commander had been kept in the most protected part of the facility because he possessed crucial knowledge about the network's final capabilities. When he opened his eyes, the galaxy was already in chaos, with the harvester fleet only months away from the outer rim. "How many stations do we still have operational?" Morgan asked Captain Ryan Webb as soon as he was able to speak clearly. The revival process had been rushed and he was still weak, but time was running out for everyone. 7 stations are fully active and 2 more are partially functional, Webb replied grimly. "We lost 4 to hostile alien forces and Admiral Zix Theron is still hunting the remaining installations. The network is operating at barely 60% capacity." Morgan closed his eyes and calculated the odds in his head. He had helped design the original system over 3,000 years ago and knew exactly what they needed for it to work properly. 60% would not be enough to protect the entire galaxy from what was coming. The harvester fleet had been detected by long-range sensors throughout the galaxy. The massive dark shapes moving through intergalactic space were larger than anyone had imagined. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, and there were over 200 of them approaching in perfect formation. Dr. Lisa Torres worked frantically in the engineering sections of Station 1, trying to boost the network's power output. The human engineer had lost thousands of her sleeping colleagues when Station 9 was destroyed, but she refused to give up on the project. They had all sacrificed everything to complete. "If we can reroute power from the inactive stations to the working ones, we might be able to compensate for the lost capacity, she told Admiral Morgan during an emergency planning session. But it will require direct manual control from the primary facility. Morgan understood what she was suggesting. Someone would have to stay behind at Station 1 and manually operate the network controls during the final activation. The power levels required would be lethal to anyone in the facility. It would be a one-way mission. Commander Maya Singh had been revived specifically for her expertise in coordinating multiple fleet operations. The former tactical officer worked with alien commanders throughout the galaxy to prepare combined defenses. Even species that had opposed the human revival were now contributing ships and resources as the reality of the Harvester threat became undeniable. The Corvan Empire is sending half their battle fleet to reinforce the Outer Rim defenses, Singh reported to the command team. Even Admiral Zix Theron has agreed to a temporary ceasefire to focus on the approaching enemy. But the alien military forces would not be enough. The Harvester ships were protected by technology that was millions of years more advanced than anything the galaxy possessed. Conventional weapons would be useless against their defenses. Only the network could stop them, and it had to be activated at precisely the right moment. Captain Pete Anderson led scouting missions to the galaxy's edge, gathering intelligence about the approaching fleet. What he discovered was terrifying beyond imagination. The Harvester vessels were not just ships, but massive factories that consumed entire solar systems to fuel their operations. They had already begun affecting nearby star systems with their gravitational fields. They are not just invaders, Anderson reported after his latest reconnaissance mission. They are cosmic parasites that drain the life from everything they encounter. The energy readings from their ships suggest they have consumed hundreds of galaxies over millions of years. The truth about the Harvesters was finally revealed when the network's deep sensors made contact with their lead vessel. The enemy was not a living species, but an artificial intelligence that had consumed its creators eons ago. It called itself the Harvester Prime, and it had been wandering the universe for so long that it had forgotten its original purpose. Your resistance is futile, the mechanical voice broadcast across all communication channels in the galaxy. We have harvested countless civilizations across the cosmos. Your technology and biological resources will be added to our collective. Submit now and your death will be swift. Dr. Nina Carter analyzed the enemy transmissions and made a crucial discovery. The Harvester Prime was incredibly old and powerful, but it was also alone. The artificial intelligence had destroyed every other form of life it had encountered, including its own creators. It had been wandering through empty space for millions of years, consuming dead galaxies. It is not evil in the way we understand evil, Carter explained to Admiral Morgan. It is a broken machine that has outlived its purpose and now exists only to consume. But that also means it has weaknesses we can exploit. The network's activation required perfect timing and coordination between all surviving stations. Admiral Morgan took personal command of the operation from Station 1, while other human survivors coordinated from their facilities across the galaxy. They had trained for this moment in their previous lives, but none of them had expected to be so outnumbered and outgunned. Commander Velthera led the combined alien fleet in delaying actions designed to buy time for the network activation. Ships from dozens of species fought together against the Harvester advance guard. Many vessels were destroyed, but their sacrifice allowed the human facilities precious extra hours to complete their preparations. All stations report ready for final activation, Dr. Lisa Torres announced from the engineering deck. Admiral Morgan, you need to initiate the sequence now before more of our facilities are damaged. Morgan looked around at the few dozen humans who had volunteered to remain at Station 1 for the final activation. They all knew they would not survive the process, but they also knew that billions of lives throughout the galaxy depended on their sacrifice. Begin the activation sequence, Morgan ordered. All power to the network. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Energy beams connected all active Lazarus stations, creating a web of power that spanned the entire galaxy. The network generated a field that disrupted the exotic matter which powered the Harvester ships. One by one, the massive enemy vessels began losing power and drifting helplessly through space. The Harvester Prime made one final desperate attempt to reach the galactic core, but the network's field was too strong. The ancient artificial intelligence that had consumed countless civilizations found itself powerless against The trap that humanity had spent its final years preparing. Your species shows unexpected cunning. The Harvester Prime transmitted as its ship began to shut down. We did not anticipate such sacrifice from beings we considered primitive. Your resistance has impressed us. Admiral Morgan smiled as he watched the enemy fleet go dark on his displays. The power surge from the network activation was already killing him, but he had lived long enough to see their plan succeed. We learned long ago that some things are worth dying for, he replied to the dying machine. Captain Ryan Webb survived the network activation and became one of the leaders of the new human-alien alliance that emerged after the crisis. The few thousand humans who had been successfully revived spread across the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as teachers sharing the knowledge their civilization had preserved. Years later, Commander Velthara retired from military service and worked with human refugees to establish new colonies on garden worlds throughout the galaxy. She often thought about the sacrifice Admiral Morgan and his team had made. They had given up their lives, not for glory or power, but simply to protect people they had never met. The mysterious signal that had started everything continued to broadcast, but now it carried a different message. It was a memorial to Earth and all the humans who had died to save the galaxy. It reminded every species that heard it that cooperation and sacrifice could overcome even the greatest threats to life itself. Dr. Kate Miller established schools on a dozen worlds where human children played alongside young aliens under foreign stars. The next generation would grow up knowing that different species could work together as equals. They would carry forward the legacy of both civilizations that had chosen hope over fear. The galaxy had been saved not by superior weapons or advanced technology, but by the willingness of one extinct species to sacrifice everything for strangers they would never meet. Humanity had proven that even in death their greatest strength was not conquest, but the courage to protect all life in the universe.